your power line inspections, your thermal photography inspections, even for some security purposes. And then, Mal, you mentioned cinema. You get big guys like this. This is a drone that has almost got like a 2-meter wingspan all round. I think it's an octocopter, 8 blades. And these things are huge, and they carry million-rand payloads for cinema, photography and videography. And drones as a whole has completely revolutionized the cinema game. But again, this is still quite, in my term, pedestrian. Okay, this is what drones, everyone's like, drones was created for photography. Okay, great, that's what we're using them for. But what else can they do? How about 3D mapping? I'm gonna show you some things like that now. Taking a site, a building, a piece of land, and you can map that, that site to an extremely high level of detail. Think of Google Earth on steroids times 1,000, okay, where you can get your pixel, what we call ground sampling distance, or your GSD. So every pixel on your map is a centimeter. Off of Google Earth, a pixel is like a meter or 2, okay? So think of the accuracy that you can get. So this is used a lot in the mining industry, where they need to do volumetric calculations, just normal surveys of greenfields, exploration, all those kind of things. So 3D mapping, that's now not pedestrian anymore. That's now really starting to push the envelope of what the technology is capable of. Agriculture, you mentioned it. Drones these days have got multispectral cameras on them that can pick up different wavelengths of light, where you can see and fly over a crop, and you can start to pick up diseases, pests, water shortages in those crops. And you can do that all with the drone. And this is things that you wouldn't be able to, if you had to go walk through that field, for example, your eye wouldn't even pick it up, because our eyes physically cannot pick up those wavelengths. The drones can do it. The payload that has now enabled the drones has vastly pushed this industry into agriculture as well. Crop spraying, massive drones. We've done quite a bit of this as well. These drones are huge. I've got one sitting in my office. When it's fully unfolded, it's got a 3-meter wingspan from one tip to the other, okay? Massive thing, can pick up a small person, fly you around, okay, if you really want to. But it's used for crop spraying. I'm sure you guys have all seen drone deliveries. It's been the buzzword for a long time. And in South Africa, it's very difficult to do, but that's because of regulations. But can anyone here tell me who was the first country in the world to do proper full-scale drone deliveries? Anyone take a guess? Who? Speak up, speak up. I cannot tell you. You guys can talk way more. US? No. Japan? No. No. So close. Singapore? No. Rwanda. Rwanda, of all places, is the first country in the world to adopt large, full-scale drone deliveries. They use that for medical supplies, to get medical supplies to rural areas that are difficult to reach by road. So incredible technology, and it all goes around the country and the government and the uptake of that technology that can really push it in our society. What about firefighting? Can you believe firefighting drones these days? This is real. That drone that I mentioned that's sitting in my office actually cleans windows. I mean, window cleaning, firefighting, all these applications. I mean, the possibilities are endless. They are also extremely expensive. Surprise, surprise. This drone right here, it's a locally made drone, will set you back about 5 million rand. Yeah. Okay. But it is an incredible machine. This is mainly for overseas use, but it's an incredible machine. I think the endurance on this thing is many hours. I think the biggest one can fly for like 20 hours. And it's used for large, very large scale surveillance or mapping. But now all of these things are great. it's lekker, it's fun, but we are architects. Okay. How do drones benefit you as current and future architects? What can you use it for? And that's what I want to touch on. But before we get into that, we also need to understand there's a few things that are really important, and that is regulations. Okay? In South Africa and worldwide, drones have become a very highly regulated industry, and for very good reason. Why do some of you think drones regulations is important? Your hand is up first. Yeah, exactly, yeah. Okay. Yeah, yeah. Back there? You had your hand up? Yes, yeah. Privacy, big, yeah. Sorry, they took your answer. You guys are 100% correct. A drone, you need to understand, a drone is still an aircraft. Even though there's no one on board, it is a UAV, unmanned aerial aircraft, but it is still an aircraft. If you throw a stick in the air, technically, well, not really, but it's an object that, like you said, can cause catastrophic financial and physical issues, dangers, okay, cost of life. I mean, not too long ago, Rand Airport, there in the south, there was a drone strike on a plane that was in circuit. Thankfully, no one was injured, but it was a small drone, and it completely buckled one of the wings of that aircraft. There was people on board. That could have been catastrophic. Okay, so using drones responsibly and legally is of utmost importance. Okay, so like I said to you guys, I want to show you guys this technology, but I also don't want you guys now just running off to Hamleys or whatever, buying a drone and going to have a merry old time and cause issues within the greater industry, because there are huge ramifications of that. Again, financially, you will be liable for huge fines, and if something really goes wrong, it is now legal that you can face jail time. Okay, so think about it. But for us as architects, the first thing that you would need to do if you want to use a drone is you would have to go to a school and you will get a drone pilot's license. What that will entail is something along these lines. There's a whole bunch of subjects that you will have to go and study for. You will do these subjects and you will then go and write your exam. And you do your practicals, and then you can become then you get your pilot's license. You have to do medicals as well. I'll show you now. You have to do medicals, you get x-ray, you do a whole bunch of things. And then you get your pilot's license, which looks something like this. This is called the old red book. You now get a card, and that then allows you to then get your commercial operational certificate, and then you can operate commercially. Okay, so very important to understand the roadmap to using this technology. But once you've got that, once you have got your license, you're operating commercially, legally, you can then do some really cool things. Something like this. This is one of the first scans I did while I was still at university. It's a quick fly through, and it's still very rudimental, but yeah, I'm basic. This was my site for my master's thesis. I don't know if you guys can recognize that, but that is the Egoli Gas Works that is there in Auckland Park. And this was done, by the way, with that little drone of mine. A tiny little thing. I did all this, okay? Full mapping of the entire area. And yeah, I'm going to then show you, because that in and of itself, it looks cool. It's a nice visual. You can see all these points, but what do you do with it? Okay. I want to show you this warp speed video of the actual data capture process. This is a process called photogrammetry. So it's pre-programming a drone to fly along a particular flight path over a site or building or area, whatever you want to do. And it captures hundreds, if not thousands of images, depending on how big the site is. But as you can see there, it flies completely on its own. I'm not sitting there flying it, it's pre-programmed, okay? It then takes images like this that are 2D images, and it then gets processed in photogrammetry software that looks something along these lines. Now, if you can see, those images are all pointing in different directions, and it's in a cross-grid pattern to allow for maximum coverage so that you can get as much detail as possible of that site or of that infrastructure that you are busy surveying, okay? Then those 2D images gets processed, and it generates a sparse point cloud that looks something like this, okay? Not very useful yet. You will see it doesn't look like much, but you can start to see, there's something there. You can start to see the flow of the land, the topography, and you can get an idea of what's there. But the process needs to carry on. There's further processing that is required. And once you do that processing, you get something that looks like this. This is the same site, okay? Once that whole process is done and complete, you get a full dense point cloud that looks like this. And this is now something that can become very useful to an architect. Architects will generally use this kind of survey to generate as-built drawings, okay? That is what most of my work is as-built drawing generation and drawing up, okay? We use the drone along with other technologies, which I'm also going to show you now, to generate full point clouds of the site. And then from there, you can take that point cloud into Revit, for example, and you can start to model up from there. Who of you guys have ever gone to measure up a building by hand with a laser and a pen and paper? Okay. All you students, not yet. Okay. All the lecturers, torture, am I right? Absolute torture. It's horrible. Okay. And I can guarantee you, other than taking really, really long, it's generally quite inaccurate, because I can guarantee you that you will not pick up all the detail. You will forget because you get a little bit lazy, or you just want to get it done, and you won't pick up all the detail. Something like this, on the other hand, picks up everything that it can see that is there, and you can then refer back to that at any given time, as if you were on site. You can go and you can zoom in again onto the point cloud and go and look and see, this is what was there. That's what that is. This is how big this is. Also, as modeling or drawing, sorry, my English is now starting to fail me, measuring up by hand, you will never get the correct orientation and placement of a building on a site. Why? Because no building is built perfectly 100% square, okay? Never on a site, so you'll never get its proper orientation, and you'll never, walls sometimes do this, sometimes do that, you'll never get it straight, okay? So there's a lot of assumptions that go into when measuring up by hand. The drone gets rid of all of that. It is as accurate as it comes. If you survey it with ground control points, which I'm not going to get into, it is centimeter accurate, okay? Another thing that is really useful, and as a future architect, you will know that your design and your placement of your building or of your architecture is dependent on the site. You have to look at your site, see how your site falls. So using a drone, this is the exact same site that I just showed you now, we can generate accurate 3D contour models, which we can then also take into Revit, for example, and start to design our architecture in response to the site, okay? So very important, very much needed just in general for all the professionals in a building project is contours and topography. So Most of the time, we do things like this that are large scale, more industrial buildings. So clients will come to us because 9 times out of 10, they don't have council drawings, okay? Or I don't know how council drawings go missing, but they do, okay? Or the previous owners of these sites, they just go randomly and they build things, and then when someone takes it over, and then they start to get into trouble with regulations, they now need council drawings. So if you had to go do that with a laser measurer or a tape and a pen and paper, you would spend a week on that site, if not longer, okay? Yeah, probably 2. How long that took me? 30 minutes. That took me 30 minutes. I was in and out. Okay, we use terrestrial scanners there as well, just to get some facade detail, which is what I'll show you now. But that took 30 minutes on site, and I was done. I process it. I've now got that point cloud. I can take that into Revit. I can model up everything. I can see what is there. I can refer back to it. I know it's accurate. I know my building placement. I know my orientation. Everything is there because the technology has enabled me to now gather this data. But I don't know if you guys have seen, this technology does have limitations. I'm not going to lie to you and say, oh, drones will solve everyone's problems. No, okay? It has got limitations. It's got its pros and cons. One of its limitations, I don't know if you guys have seen in the point clouds that I've already showed you, there are sometimes gaps or like holes. Why that is, okay? Normally that is because of tree coverage. If the drone cannot see it, it cannot photograph it, and therefore we cannot model it, okay? So things that are under dense tree coverage, doesn't like that. Sometimes facades, because of the angle of the camera, it cannot pick up a lot of facade detail. So that is an issue that we have to work with, that we need to understand its limitations and then work around it, okay? But a drone as a whole is wonderful to get full site coverage that is quick, that gives you the general layout of everything. But then to get that high level of detail, you combine it with other technologies, like this, for example. Okay, this is now a terrestrial laser scan where we walk around the site, okay, and it's got a laser that you carry, and it shoots out hundreds of thousands of lasers every second. And because you are now on the ground, you can pick up that facade detail. You'll obviously see that it can't pick up the roofs because of where you are on the ground, but it can pick up that facade detail. It is also highly, highly accurate. So now, as you're walking through, you can go under car parks, you can see the trees, there it goes under a roof, you can get that kind of detail. So the point that I'm trying to make here is you have to understand your technology. You have to understand what is available to you, readily available to you, and how it can best serve your purpose. What does your clients want? And then you work back from that and you understand, what am I going to use? Do I need to just use the drone? Do they just want contours, topography? Okay, lekker, we use the drone. Do I need highly detailed models of windows, facades, all that kind of stuff? Then I need to combine that with the drone. It's working with everything that you've got in your arsenal of tools, okay? And once you have the drone combined with the laser scan, you can do things like this. This is now the Revit model. This client needed it for, again, council drawings that went wrong, okay? And we can generate a full working model that I then pass off to the other architects and they do their thing. But we can accurately determine heights, sizes of doors, windows, roof pitches, again, correct placement of the buildings on the site, the correct orientation. And now here we have something that is actually useful. It's no longer just a pretty picture or a point cloud that, oh yeah, it looks fancy, but that's not useful. Take your technology, and that's the thing with everything, okay? you have to see what you've got and make it useful to you. It's more than just getting the footage or getting the cool point cloud, okay? So this is something that we did actually quite recently, and like I mentioned, the level of detail for this was for council drawings, but what if we need super high detail stuff? We can do things like this. This is engineering spec and grade scanning, where we use drones and terrestrial scanners to go and scan bridges that needed to go to an engineering company to model these bridges and then do their analytics on these bridges because these things were failing. So you can do high precision and level of detail even like this, okay? So at the end of the day, and I'm wrapping up, sorry, I'm 2 minutes already over time, okay? At the end of the day, you guys as future architects, I want you guys to see what is available to you. The technology that is out there for you, readily available, okay? If you can't afford the drone, there's plans that can be made. You hire guys, you outsource, you go and get even the most basic one. Like I showed you, that little drone. It could do that entire scan of the Egoli gasworks, okay? So use the technology that is out there. Use it wisely, use it legally, understand its pros and cons, understand its limitations, and then work around that. It is out there, it is available to you, and the opportunities that drones have brought into the industry for you guys has just risen exponentially over the last few years. Opportunities are coming out daily for you guys to really further your career, make your life so much easier. And it's still growing. It's a growing industry that you guys can plug into and use to your advantage. So yeah, that's me. Thank you very much. You're welcome to clap. Are there any questions? Is there time for some questions? Yes. So there are so many softwares. There are even some open source softwares that you can use and download. It really depends on your budget. Like Pix4D, for example, is quite expensive. Agisoft, quite expensive. So it really depends on what you want to use it for and your budget. But there are literally, so I use Pix4D just personally. I think it is probably the best, but it does come at quite a cost, unfortunately. There is subscription. There's also the perpetual license that you can get, but you can download the free trial. You can chat to your lecturers. There's even student versions available that you have to use your student emails to then get. So those are readily available. And then, like I said, there are some free versions out there, some open source softwares that are out there. I haven't used all of them. One that I did use was okay-ish, but yeah, it really just depends on your budget. I think that's the biggest determining factor there. So yes, it's very similar, not as intense, but quite similar in the sense of a lot of the subjects that you will have to go and do. You go through a course. You'll go for a whole week, you'll sit in a classroom and you will go through all the different subjects, human factors, principles of flight, meteorology, all these kind of things. Funny enough, a lot of them are manned aviation subjects, okay? So if you've got those manned aviation subjects, you could potentially get some credits for that. And then, yeah, from once you've written your exam, then you go and do your practical. You have to go and do radio telephony, which is another exam and another practical, and then you can get your license. Sorry, just quickly on that. even though you then get your license, it doesn't give you the full license to then go and operate commercially. In South Africa, you then need what they call now it is a UASOC. It used to be called an ROC, which is your commercial operational certificate, which you can then apply for. If you want to get it yourself, it is quite an expensive process and it's a long-winded process, but there are other ways of going about it as well, flying under already established ROCs to then operate commercially. So there's options. There is a multitude of options available to you based on your budget and your time and just everything.
And if you want to do like a massive landscape, and like say if we're going to hide on something is restricted for maximum height.
Yes. So in South Africa, your maximum altitude that you are allowed to fly, even commercially, is 120 meters or 400 feet. If you want to go over 400 feet, you need to get a flexible use of airspace or an FUA. You apply for that through an organization called CAMU, and that then, if everything checks out, and obviously you need your license for that, you need your ROC for that, and then once all of that checks out, you can then operate in controlled airspace or above 400 feet. Yeah, so the SACAA, the Civil Aviation Authority, they are the ones that have implemented and govern all the regulations for aviation in South Africa, which drones falls under. Yeah.
I'm just a massive aviation fan.
Fantastic. Come chat to me. Yeah, so incredible technology. There are drones and payloads that can fly completely autonomously in GPS-denied environments, underground, in your mining tunnels and stopes and shafts. And yeah, so it uses LiDAR technology for its navigation and its operation. And as it flies, it just scans everything and it scans the environment. Brilliant technology, extremely expensive, but it's really incredible. I've seen it firsthand and it's really, really awesome. Yeah, so infrastructure inspections is a massive one. They use it in pipelines. So your petrochemical industry, oil and gas, just your general infrastructure of a city. So there are tunnels underground, under Joburg. So they fly these under, they can scan all those environments. So yeah, if you can put a drone in there, I can tell you now it's useful. and somebody is doing it.
What's the biggest disadvantage of using drones?
Good question. Okay. And like I said, there's limitations to everything, and you need to understand its limitations. So if you want to do 3D scanning like we are doing for architecture, like I said, you have to sometimes couple that with other technologies like laser scanning, because it cannot get that detail, because you're flying at 70, 80, 100 meters, and now you're trying to capture something that's under a roof or under dense tree coverage. So you then have to combine it with other technologies. Another disadvantage to drones, battery life is a big thing. I've got like a whole array of batteries, and I've got a generator on the back of my bakkie, and I'm just charging batteries as I go, depending on the job. Probably the biggest hurdle is still the regulations. Regulations is a big hurdle in South Africa. South Africa has got some of the most strict aviation laws in the world. We were the first country in the world to have commercial drone regulations. So yeah, regulations is a big hurdle, and that's one of the bigger disadvantages. But like I said, if you want to do it, you want to do it legally, responsibly, there are options available. So it just, you need to, where there's a will, there's a way. So you just got to make it happen. But yeah, that's probably the ones that I can think of off the top of my head right now. Sure.
For the data spring, then generate that from the scan, generate that in real time while the scan.
It doesn't generate it in real time because remember the drone is taking 2D images as it flies along its flight path. It's literally just taking photos as it goes, okay? You then take those images and you put it into your photogrammetry software, and so how long does it take is how long is a piece of string. It really depends on the size of your scan of your site. Something small, an hour or two, something massive. We've done scans that are thousands of hectares, and it took me like a month to process. Okay, look, granted, my computer is probably not the most amazing thing for that scale, but yeah, it really just depends on what you are doing and the level of detail that you require as well.
Why would you need to study ethics at lab?
So you don't study medical stuff, okay? You do have to do human factors, which is a subject which goes around human physiology, your eyes, how you perceive things, fatigue. I mean, that's a thing that goes into our bodies. I mean, we get fatigued, and as a pilot, if you are fatigued, you are not thinking correctly. So you need to understand your body in order to operate responsibly. A pilot that is flying commercially airliners, okay, they are not allowed to just go from one flight to the next, to the next, to the next. I mean, do you want a pilot that is half asleep on the plane? No, okay? Now, you as a drone pilot, if you are half asleep flying your drone and you go and crash into a building or into an aeroplane, that's on you. And if they then see that you weren't physically capable of being safe and responsible, that's again on you. That's why you have to go and do your aviation medicals, where they check your blood pressure, they check your, they draw blood, and there's a whole bunch of tests that they do there. They x-ray you. You need to be physically fit to do the job. Is it a lot? Yes. Is it all necessary? I don't know, but it is important. And it is a crucial thing that you have to do and make sure, I mean, also your eyesight. So yeah, that's why pilots need good vision.
Also, are there specific drones that are UTAR licensed, or is it just like all?
Okay, good question. Okay, you as a hobby pilot, okay, if you abide within the rules and regulation that is set out by the South African Civil Aviation Authority, that the regulations that fall under hobbyist, you can fly whatever you want really, up to, oh, please don't quote me on this, but I think it's a drone under 7 kilograms, okay? But that is very regulated under the rules of hobby pilots. I'm not going to get into that, okay? If you do anything, and I mean anything commercially, if you are using your drone in your day job, if you are using your drone to take photos, videos, whatever the case is, and you sell that data, or you are getting some sort of financial gain from using that even as a tool, and a lot of people will say, oh, but I don't put that on the invoice, and we're not actually using it to make money. No, that's rubbish, okay? That's a loophole that people are trying to work around, okay? It's illegal. If you are doing anything commercially with the drone, or if you are flying in commercial airspace, you are flying over private property, over roads, all these things, you need a license, your drone needs to be registered, and you need your ROC. Okay, so yeah. It really, if you want to fly as a hobbyist, you need to abide by those rules and regulations. Like I said, I'm not going to get into that because that's a kettle of fish. We'll go to you, and then you, and then you. Yes.
I know you said it's quite a big loophole, but just in terms of us doing like site analysis, checking out the progress of construction, stuff that actually informs our work. It's a photo that's in the sky.
Is it a commercial site? Are you using it in your commercial day? Are you using it in your job?
Yeah, it's a project from the office that we designed, and we're just checking the construction progress of it. Is that
you are flying commercially? Yeah, you're flying. So guys, this is this is now the trick when it comes to commercial drone operations. It's a real, there's a lot of red tape. I get it, I understand it, it's frustrating. A lot of the times, it doesn't make sense because you're like, I just want to go do this quickly. I'm not going to hurt anyone. Okay, but it's killing the industry as a whole. I mean, if you have an engineer, for example, that is registered, and now another guy comes that isn't registered, and he's just like, oh, I know this beam is going to work because I did this course in my university. Of course it's going to work. Let's just quickly do this. What is the engineer going to think? Or how's he going to feel? Or a doctor that has studied 7 years and is practicing legally and responsibly, and now you come and you're like, oh no, my mom uses this medication. Let's just prescribe this to you. Don't worry, it's okay. No, so we can get into the ethics behind it, and that's a whole nother discussion. But black and white, yeah, it's illegal. And also, if you're flying over people, and I can guarantee you, if you've got a construction site that is operational, and you want to get some photos of that construction site, I can guarantee you're flying over people most of the time. If you have a flyaway, which happens, what's going to happen? I've literally watched drones go up in the air, and the guy's still in control, and then all of a sudden, swoops, that drone goes. Okay? And it literally flies away. You can do what you want. You can run around, stand on your head. I don't care. You don't get control of that drone again. Do you have third-party liability insurance? That drone falls on a road, causes a car accident, kills a family. Do you have third-party liability insurance? But this is just a photo of my site.
Yeah. Actually a counter argument for this, what I want to actually ask is a counter argument would be, why didn't you stop me from buying it and ask me for my license?
Very good point.
Get a drone. No one stopped me, So,
very, very good point. That is one of the biggest gripes that we have in the industry is this technology is so easily available, so readily. You can go, like I said, you can go to Hamleys and go buy a drone, for crying out loud, okay? It should be the responsibility of the vendor that is supplying you with that drone to enforce the law, to ask you for your license. I mean, yeah, that brilliant point, I agree with you. And that is where, this is now also the thing, and say what you want, this is South Africa. We've got all these laws, but enforcement is a problem, okay? So yeah, do with it what you want. Like I said, there is black and white rules and regulations that we have to abide with. People take chances. The industry is full up with illegal drone pilots, full up, okay? It is what it is. One day will be a day where something goes wrong. Like I told you guys, that drone that flew into that plane, if that caused the death, whew. Fun fact, in Sweden, or Switzerland, one of those Scandinavian countries, not too long ago, a giant drone that was doing deliveries went and crashed. Where? In a playground, with kids playing in that playground. This is a big drone that weighs probably like 20 kilograms. That thing falling out the sky at 120 meters, you know what that does to a child, to anyone? You're dead. Okay? Thankfully, no one was injured. But that is why we have these rules and regulations. It is vitally important. So yeah, but we can talk about that a little bit further if you want. Yeah.
I'm gonna ask we take some of those questions out often.
Cool.
Otherwise we're gonna start.
Yeah, sorry.
Fascinating topic. You guys keep on engaging. What I just want to add is a sort of closer. For anyone who will be interested in the future, we will soon be launching a course in droning. You can be your license. So to everyone who's interested in that, keep an eye on our website. For everyone on campus here, we've also invited a company who specializes in surveying and droning. They actually set up the stand in the back there. Please go and engage with them as well, get some more information there. And for everyone who's on the line, please go and have a look at their website as well, iGlobe. Fascinating things they are doing. Thank you. Thank you for this riveting talk. I think we're going to definitely invite you back to continue this conversation. So everyone who has any more questions, please engage with James if you have some time capacity.
You're welcome to share my email
Fantastic.
to everyone. Yeah, check us out. Share my email. Give me a call. Send me an email. Whatever the case is, we can chat.
Great. All right. So for everyone online, I'll post the email.
Space signal in the chat.
Yes. Yeah, yeah.
Everyone's.
Yes. Yeah. I'll share your email to
Cool.
everyone. All right. Thank you so much.
Cool.
Much
Appreciate it.
For everyone online, just you guys can take a 5 or so minute body break. We're just going to set up for the next presenter, and then we'll take it from there in a few minutes.
It's like a remote where it can force the drone to land itself. And like the problem with that is you can just control it, so you won't know where it goes, so you can force it.
That's that's illegal as well. It's not.
It's big in the US.
It is, but it's
like
it's actually still
illegal.
illegal. You can't just do that thing, and you can't actually just shoot someone's
Exactly.
drone up the sky.
Also, you can't fire a live animation.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's
presentation.
Good
job.
It's really cool, and occasionally my neighbors like the one time my neighbor he wanted to sell the house, so I was brother to Midrand has the Phantom flight over, and then just some aerials around the house, like the real estate agent and clients how the property is. And my father-in-law was also he's a real estate agent as well. He wants to get a license so he that's what his next big. He wants to apply with his estate so that he can sell into the industry. So very cool. Can do like
It's really a versatile tool. Yeah, it's quite cool. Yeah, keep flying. But do it properly. Do it legally.
But even in
Why do you look so
You look very familiar as well,
Equipment.
James. During varsity days, I think we have done. We've met and we've done stuff together. For the life of me,
engineering?
no.
Architecture?
Architecture at UJ.
Well, it must be that way.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think so.
Awesome. Thanks to you, man. Why is this good thing? 64.
All right, everyone, we're just busy setting up. We just need to do a quick transfer with Mac. So
Thanks,
give
Mac.
give us an extra few minutes, and then we'll kick off the next one. Thanks. Tapelo, your hands up. Please just post in the chat if you don't mind. The session has not started yet. We're going to start in a minute or so. We're just busy uploading the presentation. Apologies for the delay. We should get going in a short bit. Thanks everyone for your patience. Yeah, just quickly want to do an audio check. Audio check for everyone online. Can you guys hear us fine? Wonderful.
Are you going to change slides there or? I'll change now. This is just my notes.
Okay. All right, perfect. Right. Thank you everyone for your patience. I want to introduce your Aquila Space from Black Table Designs. Right. We are very excited to have him here and take us through some of his thoughts and processes. Same process as always. If you guys have any questions, please feel free to ask. And we're excited to hear about your talks.
Cool. Ruben, duties?
You can carry on.
Cool. Right. Hello, everyone. It's good to be here. Thank you for coming in person and those who are online. Hi. I'll mix that. Gotta love Windows. Okay, so today's talk, we're going to talk about form follows feeling. I'm going to start with something a little bit big. What makes you human? So Descartes, he thought about this, was that there's a crisis around the idea of that we're all humans and we all have subjective experiences. And we all have different emotions, different kind of viewpoints and perspectives. And so he tried to find a truth, and then in that truth discovered that if we have thought as our kind of objective experience, we can find truth. But through that process of discovering, figuring out that thought is our basis points, lost the idea of what makes us human. Because we're not just thought, right? We have all these other things to us. You know, do you stop existing if you stop thinking? And what about your emotions? What about your relationships? What about, oh, there's a bit of a lag here. What about your history? Your body? Or your spirits? There it is, all right. Thought these Dell G14s were badass.
They're quite usually. Sorry, just 1 second.
Well, this dramatic pause is perfect.
Very dramatic.
Okay, we good? You guys, you're not seeing anything. You saw nothing? You saw nothing. Oh, come on. Can we start again? I'm gonna start again.
It's just that all the time. You need to put in It's going to make us feel do this. Just it. Want to duplicate or exit?
Duplicate.
There we go.
All right.
No, you want to don't you want to? Oh, okay.
No, sorry everyone for the delay.
Change that.
To change it low.
All right, and we'll be back up. Thank you.
Okay, we're going to start again. So just memory erase. Let's pull up that dramatic.
Oh,
Yeah.
pull it.
Okay.
Make the whole presentation whole screen. Maybe if you close this part as well. Do this.
Oh, that's so much better.
Cool.
Yeah.
Did
you guys delete? Can we start again?
Continue.
Okay. So what makes you human? Okay, so Descartes had this thought that he tried to understand what truth was, and so decided to strip away everything that makes us subjective and focus on an objective truth, which is thought, and then basically reduced everything to that, so that we lose essentially all the parts that make us who we are. And so there's the idea that we're not just thoughts. You stop existing, you stop thinking. You have emotions, you have relationships, history, your body, and your spirit. So there's this idea that when you're designing, you have this idea that you come up with. You design with that idea in mind, and then you create architecture. But at Black Stable, I wonder if this is actually architecture. Because actually, it's only mental architecture, right? You're only thinking when you're designing, you're coming with these thoughts mentally. Instead, if you took everything that made us who we are, your ideas, your thoughts, your memories, your relationships, your community, your history, all of these things, and you design with that in mind, well, then you'd start creating something a bit more akin to human architecture. Designing with your head creates mental architecture. Designing with your everything creates human architecture. So where did this whole concept come from? Where did it start? I'm going to say that doing two at the same time is quite tricky. Okay, so the world is in lockdown, and all our projects at Black Stable have been shelved, except for one. And what happens is this incredible thing that occurs is that we have no deadlines. We have enough cash flow because one project is continuing, so we have enough cash flow to not worry about money. And we discover something. We didn't have any meetings or site visits or deadlines. And through this process, discovered the joy of making models again, of exploration and delving into the process. Here's some sample models that we made. Some more. We found intuitive design. But before we get into that, what is intuition? What even is intuition? So one definition is the ability to understand something instinctively. So it's from a gut space. So here are 6 steps to intuitive design. But before we get into that, let us get into the moment. So we're going to do an exercise that I'd like you all to do with me. So I'm going to start by just sitting quietly and then observing 5 things that you can see. Please, if you're at home, please do the same thing. So just sit quietly and just look around the room that you're in and just notice 5 things that you can see. And then close your eyes. Once you've done the 5. And don't overthink at the 5. If you already still on that, you can let that go. Then close your eyes and then try and see if you can hear 4 things. And then try and see if you can feel 3 things. So maybe it's the pressure of in your seat, your butt. Maybe it's the clothes on your skin, your breath on your top lip. And then try and notice 2 things you can smell. And then lastly, 1 thing you can taste. If you're like me, it's probably coffee. So what that is essentially a grounding technique that we've just done. And that brings you into the moment, in the present state. So when you're designing, one of the first things to do is to first arrive, so that you're not coming with all this baggage of deadlines and things. Just arrive into the space, into your body. But when you're designing, you're solving a problem. So you can't just ignore the fact that there's an actual problem that you're trying to solve. Otherwise, it becomes more artistically motivated. So you need to understand what it is that you're doing. So under your fingertips, you need to have the site, the weather conditions, the climate, the brief, the goals, the budget, the vision, the timelines, all these kind of really mental things. It's great that everyone's yawning. That's really good. Well done. That means you're regulating down. That's excellent. Your expertise, all these things you should bring to bear when you're doing a design problem. But don't stop there. So then create stillness. And the way you create stillness is trying to create space between all your inputs. So put your phone on silent or flight mode, switch off your emails, switch off meeting requests, whatever disruptions, tell your family that you listen, I'm unavailable for the next hour, 2 hours, whatever time you can manage, try and make it as big as possible. And in that space, by creating space for you to kind of conceptualize and feel and be, you'll come up with better solutions to problems. And then your body. So I need to play that video now. Good, thank you. So hold that thought, everyone. There's 2 videos to play here. So here's a video of me designing a spa building. And I'm not thinking about designing a building. I'm thinking about what feels good, movements are, using my body and mechanically engaging with myself. You're using kind of more skills and more talents and more latent senses that allow you to design better. The next video, I'm just going to do that. Similarly with drawing, the same thing applies. Using your body to do the actual drawing work. So you're actually using your arm, you're engaging with it, not just clicking a mouse. When you're clicking a mouse, you're not actually doing this thing, which is using your body. You're just doing this motion. So there's no difference between, paying R1 million or moving a wall 10 millimeters. It's the same action, so there's no feeling towards it. So you're not really engaging with it physically. Yeah, so it's not just about, okay. So when you use your body to design, your arms, your hands, your legs, make models, draw on paper, mark out on the ground, try and get as much of your body involved. Feel the space. If you're drawing something, that's 5 meters wide, take a tape measure, put out 5 meters, stand in the space, try and feel it, try and visualize, try and engage with it, get your body into the space as much as you possibly can. All right, then play. So do something for no other reason than it's fun. This isn't related to work, but just engage with this thing called play. So start, playing with whatever, when you're cooking, when you're making things, burn stuff, don't burn things, see what happens, experiment, get this idea of joyful creation instead of like there's a purpose to this thing. Try and stay away from this idea of outcome and start going into this idea called process and play. This is a sample image of drawings that we do every day that basically encapsulates this idea of just drawing. None of these drawings are architecturally related. These are all drawings that are just for fun. I love drawing cars, so I pick cars that we can draw, and other people pick other things that we can draw. We'll get more into this a bit later. And then feeling. So when you're designing, don't just kind of make a line and go, oh, it's a wall. This wall is in the right place. The light shadow is perfect. The sun angles are 100% exactly what it needs to be. Instead, go, oh, I move this wall a little bit. What does it feel like when I move that wall? What does it engage with? What do I get out of it when I make that move? And then lastly is this idea of gut development. So basically what this means is to start tapping into this thing that's called the intuitive element. So for example, if you're going out for dinner, don't just kind of go, oh, I'm just going to go have pizza because it's the thing that's closest, or I'm going to make, I don't know, spaghetti bolognese because it's the thing that's closest. I really like Italian, in case you didn't know. Rather go, before you make a decision, go, what do I feel like? Like, am I actually hungry? Okay, I'm hungry. Okay, do I feel like something big or small? I feel like something small. And so through the process of kind of understanding what it is that you actually want, end up with your solution. And by doing this over and over again, you sensitize your feeling of gut. You can also apply it to people that you met someone, like, I got a good feeling from this person. Tap into that. Don't ignore it. Don't suppress it. Start buying and trusting this thing called gut. Okay, I'm going to tell you a little story. So this is an imaginary story. Okay, imagine you have this incredible thing that you want to celebrate. You got a promotion, you got a first on your design exam, whatever it was, something really big that you want to celebrate. You got married or whatever it is. And you want to celebrate this with someone. So you decide you're going to go to this really fancy restaurant and go to this, you've heard about this restaurant, there's like incredible news about it, the reviews are insane, It's 5 stars, 5,000 reviews, absolutely ridiculous. You can't wait to go and experience this thing. You make a reservation, you arrive at the place, and you're met with this menu. The chef arrives, hears about your special occasion, and starts explaining to you the most incredible processes, ingredients, cooking techniques from all around the world. You're so excited to taste these incredible things. Your mind is filled with these visual images of richness, and you just can't wait to get your mouth or get this food into your mouth. You're so excited. And while you're sitting there, you start noticing that you're not hearing anything in the kitchen. There's no clanking noise, there's no smells, there's no noise really that's happening in the background. So you start wondering, like, seems a bit strange. I wonder what's going on. And eventually this waitron steps out. He's got this coloche of this, in case you wouldn't, that's a coloche, carrying this big tray with the coloche on top, and he's walking towards you, and you're so excited, you can't wait for this thing to, he lays this thing on the table, and you're so excited, and he lifts the coloche off the table, and there's nothing there. What the hell? What is this? And they say, enjoy. Food for thought. So the concept here is that an idea is meaningless. There's no value to it unless you create it. You have to turn this thing that you've described, you have to turn it into reality. You have to bring it into this world. You have to manifest it. So how does it relate to architecture and design? All those things I described in the beginning, all that you are, we use that to design, and we create human architecture. But it isn't actually human architecture. It's just a representation. It's not actually a thing yet. Instead, all those things that you are, you take that and you design with that. Then you create a representation. Then you have to go through this process of making, transforming, and manifesting, bringing it into the real world. And then only do you actually have this thing called human architecture. Now, in the world of a student or someone who's studying, that means it has to end up in a model state. You have to get to models, essentially, for it to become real, or a drawing that you did by hand. It has to be physical in this world, manifested. It can't just be something that lives on a screen that you represent. So, but we don't make, right? So become a maker, become a builder. Or what you can do is to start making yourself in other aspects of your life. So be a baker. Whoa. That sequence is a bit off. Okay, so what I was going to say here is, what you're going to do is essentially start making in your life. So start baking, start sewing, start cooking, start welding, start doing plumbing, whatever it is. And what you'll learn is that the process is more important than the outcome. The thing that you're doing, this thing of making, is the purpose of this goal that we're trying to achieve. And then you've got to ask yourself, who else does this? Where else does this thinking come from? It comes from writers. They're more focused on sitting down and writing, as opposed to I'm writing a book. They just focus on writing. It's a verb. They're thinking, or a claymaker or a potter. They're not thinking about making a pot. They're thinking about making clay every day and throwing, or baking, same thing. You're not thinking about baking a bread. You're thinking about baking, or floral arrangements, or furniture design, or welding, or smithing. These are all craftspeople. And the thing with craftspeople, we need to be a craftsperson. But first, what is a craft? So we're going to focus on the first definition: an activity involving a skill, making things by hand, not the deceiving one. Okay. So what does a craftsperson do? They're constantly trying to improve. They spend an inordinate amount of time honing their skill. They aren't so focused on the one item that they're making. It's not focused on this one part or this one piece of furniture or design, whatever it is, but they see that one piece as part of a continuum, right? They have made many of these and they will continue making them in the future. The one that they've just made is just one of many. They aren't making things for themselves. They aren't focused on perfection. They're focused on 1% improvement. So every pot that I make is 1% better than the previous pot. I'm not thinking about making 100% or 200% or 300% better. That happens over time. So what is your most used skill as a designer? In our case, it's drawing. So how do we make drawing a craft at Black Sable? Well, we draw every day, forever. Here is our calendar. You can see every single day, blocked out, we draw. Those are some therapy sessions in there if you. And that looks like this. This is all drawings from the team. And this is maybe 2 weeks worth of drawing. And we've done this now for a year and a half. We draw every day, and we have a repository of thousands of drawings that might exist because of this. And we use drawings to communicate with clients to get buy-in. So that looks like this. We have, instead of going through the whole incredible process of taking a design, taking it into 3D software, modeling it up, and then presenting that through crazy renders, we try and give them the smallest bit of information that says, yes, this is in the right direction. It might not be the final direction, but it's the right direction. Here's another one. Same thing, same project, different designs. So we present multiple designs to the client. We use drawings to solve site issues. This is a drone shot, illegally, of course, because I didn't know the rules at the time. And we're trying to figure out how to do an entrance walkway into this building. So on the right, you'll see there's an existing building that's already kind of, the walls are up. And we're trying to figure out, how do we make guests arrive, getting off the game drive vehicle, and then how can they walk to get to this location? Where do we need to do landscape, whatever? So it's done in situ using a photograph, but it is in situ. Similarly, here's another one. We're trying to figure out, how do you enter the building? Where does the turning circle happen for this building? It's the same project. On the right is the existing building. Where does a pergola go to soften the entry? How do you enter to the left? You'll see there's another building on the bottom left corner. And how does that relate to the building above that? And so by using these photographs, you can communicate very clearly with the contractor. You show them, you see this building, this is what you're building, this is where this thing is. So it's very direct, it's very one-to-one. We do all our details by hand. Again, because you're building this thing with hands, it's very important that you don't just conceptualize it using a computer or using your mouse. There's no reality there. It's all figments. So if you start bringing your hand to bear, all your details can start being by hand. And you'll see that not only are they more legible, contractors like reading them better, they understand, they engage with them better. Not sure exactly why, maybe because there's a richness to it, there's humanity to it, they're more interesting to look at. And also your work with the details of quality of the detail is better. We also design by hand. This is a floor plan of a spa we did in Kruger. And this is presented to clients. We can obviously go through the process to get to this point, but it's it's a very simple design. Get to that point by using hand drawings. And if you're like an industrial design space, you'll know this concept. Thumbnailing. So for example, this is an exploration of different elevations for a wine cellar. And how do we create these kind of apertures in the walls that exist that we want to create? And this is the final product of that same design. So you can see the relationship on the way the wine bottles are displayed and how that represents or is presented using the previous thumbnailing process. And we did about 30 of these to get to the right solution. And now it's your turn. If you want to see more of the Black Sable, you can join our community. It's the pitch moment. For us on Black Sable, you can check out our website. I think that Discord link wasn't valid anymore. So if you want to join the Discord, you're welcome to. I'll just send you a link. I'll send it to Ruben and you can link it out. Any questions? Okay. Any question time? Is that right? Yeah.
I've got a question.
Yeah.
With this idea of crafting design by hand, that relationship between how do you manage that process? Clients are often so intrigued by all of these renders nowadays, to do photorealism as well, getting them sort of photographs of the final design.
Yeah.
How do you bring back that engagement between the wall-making process and the client's understanding?
So that's a tricky question, because with the right client, it is extremely successful. We can get a turnaround on a decision in a couple of hours. But we've also learned that some clients, they can't visualize drawings. They can't see them. They don't understand them. Even if you were to draw like those 3D perspectives I showed you, they're of a very high quality in terms of it's very legible. You can understand what's going on. Well, some can. And that doesn't land as well, because they need to be in the space, feel the space, know the furniture, whatever. So we've kind of learned you kind of have to pick the client that you want to work with. So what we do now, when someone says we want to work with us, we go, cool. Phase one, this is what it looks like. You're going to get a concept design that's drawn by hand. Does this appeal? Does this land for you? And if they go, not really, they're like, we're not the architect for you. because this is so integral to our design process that we can't sacrifice who we are to appease the client, because you're just going to get lost in the source.
And then sort of a follow-up question. You mentioned earlier, even your detailing. But from a design perspective, what is the detailing of your design mean to you? Getting down to that level of thinking about every little connection, every little material. What does that mean to you as a designer?
I mean, I think it's quite fascinating, because I think when you look at photographs, you can't really get a sense for a building, because a building in photographs, you get a sense of the space, you get a sense of, like, you might feel that this is what this thing feels like, but mainly it's kind of like, those are like money shots. And so they're just trying to sell you something. But I find if I go into a building that's detailed well, like, I'm sure if you guys walk into a building that's designed by an architect, or there's like that level of attention is applied, you can walk into a building like, this building feels good. And you don't know what it is, but there's this idea of craftsmanship that kicks in. You're like, this light switch is in exactly the right place. Someone paid attention to that light switch. Or the door handle is in exactly the right height. They considered how the door opens, or, you know, there's a feeling you get for it. And so you can't quantify it and say, you know, the way all these details are put together is like super, you know, thought through. It's not about thought. It's about this like other quality that gets generated by doing it by hand. So to answer your question, I think a building is better if it's designed by hand throughout. But we don't have time to do that. So we have to trick the system a bit. So you have to use, you know, whatever 3D software package you use, do that, and then try and design as much as you can by hand. So the beginning and the end by hand makes sense. And then the middle, Revit or whatever crap you use.
Yes.
Well, thank you.
Sure.
Go on.
Oh, thank you. Appreciate that.
It's very great to have an experience with such a very niche commercial field that you're in. You know, and I've been following your work for the past 2 years or so.
Oh wow, cool.
And I think 3-4 months ago, I got appointed to do a launch, and you guys were like my first opportunity to go to.
Wow.
Because I was like, I know you guys did phenomenal, outstanding work, so my frame of reference came from.
Oh, that's so cool. That is so cool.
So I needed inspiration, and it brings me to a point where you talked about deadlines, sketching, drawing, immersion, sensory, and so on and so forth, which is quite adequate for the context that you develop. Landscape, position, and the question is that, can you endorse the idea if you have the right amount of experience in drawing, expedite the crafting element of it in such a manner that while you're modeling, you still possess the same quality of that sketch, right? Because I've been designing this thing for quite a while. Still like that. Not anywhere close to what you guys.
Oh, thanks.
So I'm caught in between that. I feel like I've been using this medium that I'm thinking it's good in the production element, which is the pleasing of the client and how they receive. You know, and I've sketched and now I'm engaging in the dialogue of being transparent through the process. So when sketching, also send the client to see that it doesn't actually just come out as a commodity with the Revit model that comes from something. How do you expedite that process of still portraying that quality in the model making? Because deadlines, I think. Luckily, I have a good client.
Take your time, craft it.
In other realities,
I mean, the thing with the deadline is that it's both external and internal. So, for example, I need to make money this month. I need an invoice. You know what I mean? Like, that invoice pressure is there. So one of the things that it's like like we try and instill at Luxable is this thing that's going slow is fast. So for example, if you take the time to go to that thumbnailing thing I showed you, right? So that's just a super small example of how we thumbnail. But for example, if you're designing I don't know, a spa, for example, if you try and rush that process and go, you know what, this is good enough, and then take it into Revit and then start modeling it, okay, you're going to end up with something so shit that when you present it, it's not going to sell. They're going to be like, yeah, it's okay. Like, I'm not like, my hair isn't being blown away, you know, as an example. So instead, if you go, you know what, I'm going to spend the time designing this thing from the space I've described, from that really kind of happy, playful, joyful, celebratory space, your design is going to be better. It just is. And you're going to take that and you're going to present that. You're not going to get pushback. I mean, maybe you will, obviously, but the point is that the likelihood of you getting pushback is way lower. Like the amount of designs that we do that gets cut completely. No, wrong direction. This is the direction. That never happens. Because you're designing from this really kind of human space. But if you're designing from a numbers space or a budget space or whatever, like a very mental space, you can't link to someone's emotions, right? And you're selling them a dream. You're not selling them a number. You know, so I think even if you're designing the most basic, you know, 1-bedroom cottage, whatever garden thing, there's still soul there that you can infuse. So I think does that answer? I think it kind of answers a little bit. I think the big thing is that, so when you've done your design, you take it into Revit, right? Now you're like, shit, we're in production mode. We have to get the shit out. Dawn window schedules, whatever, all that crap that we have to do, right? So you do that, but don't just start making decisions like production mode decisions. Instead go, okay, step back. I'm now not the guy making it. I'm the one reviewing the making. Is there an opportunity here that I'm missing? Where is that opportunity? And what thing can I do? Like, let's say, for example, let's say there's 100 different moments in that building. What 20 moments have to be designed, like really designed? Do those, leave the rest. Like, for example, what is a really incredible experience in the lodge? For some reason, it's the bathroom. The bathroom is magic. It's something that happens there. It's like maybe because you're naked, you're lying in the bath. There's this connection with nature. And then also your partner's there and they get to witness you. There's this whole very, very sexy. And you know, houses are not designed like that. It's like doors closed, you know, I'm in my bathroom, but don't talk to me. But you go to a lodge, there's this really special thing that happens. So it's picking those moments and going, this is magic, I need to focus on this, the rest is not important. Cool. Yeah.
Is your design philosophy and what is that?
So form follows feeling?
Yeah, how did you get
How'd I get there?
it wasn't that before.
No, it used to be super rectilinear, you know, cold, modernist kind of shit. Therapy and yoga. Yeah. You want more? Or was that? So I think so. I'll get to you now. Let me just expand a little bit on that. So I think if you go into a space that's designed by someone who's anxious. Okay, so there's another example of this food thing, okay? Imagine you come home you had like a long stressful day. You get home and you meet your partner and you're now going to make a meal together. Or no, let's say you're home and they come home and you've made them a meal, but you're super stressed when you made this meal. You're like, fuck, I've got this meeting, I have this shit client email and whatever, and you're making this food and it doesn't matter what you do and you give them that food, they're like, yeah, it's okay. And then you do the same thing. You have the most amazing day. You take your time. You're super relaxed. You put on some music, drink a bit of wine, whatever it is. And now you make exactly the same dish and you serve that to your partner. What's going to be better? Right? The one from love, right? It's the same with our buildings. Like we lose this in this fucking shit that we design because we're coming from a space of anxiety. Deadlines, anxiety, invoicing, making, you know, overheads, whatever. All that shit fucks up our buildings. And it's not about modernism or fucking contemporaryism or like traditionalism or whatever the style is irrelevant. It's the space of where you came from when you put that pen to paper. Were you feeling calm and collected and relaxed? Were you anxious and scared and afraid? That is fucking up our buildings and everything else that we do. don't know if the swearing is allowed. Sorry? Okay, that's good to know. Yes, sorry.
Just got a few questions, but all over the place, man.
Okay.
First and foremost, do you think the type of work that you do, or the projects that you want, are informed by your process? So would you rather not then get like an industrial building or like a car factory because you think someone's gonna come with that to you, or you're gonna take it because of the type of process that you how you work? And then
Let me ask that first.
Yeah.
Can you remember your second question?
What's for your process, your sketching process?
Okay.
And then the second one is designing actually obviously doesn't happen over a day. Probably got some I don't know how your calendar is, but it's probably like where you're blocking out an hour and a half or an hour just to work on an idea, and you have to kind of do admin and other things. And I know you're mentioning anxiety and the kind of space that you're in.
Yeah.
How much of a variance do you see in your designs because of your mood, for instance? Like if you visit a sketch that you did the day before and you're like, damn, that's a good sketch.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like that about some of my sketches.
Yeah.
But then some days I look at my sketches and I'm like, oh, geez, what is going on here?
Yeah. That's a good point.
And then, how do you is that something you notice? Are you conscious of that actual the space you were in when you actually did a design? Yeah, I haven't thought about that. Yeah.
Okay. So I think the skill that I have, or the latent talent that I have, has led me down this path of designing lodges. So I'll give you an example. For my thesis, I designed a taxi rank, which is essentially a parking garage. It's what you described, which is like a warehouse for cars and people moving and transiting, whatever. The design was quite shit, not because the concept isn't interesting or there isn't cool stuff to do this, but because I don't think my skill set can apply properly to that context.
Yeah.
That said, imagine a spa or a lodge merged with a taxi rank as an example. How epic that would be as an experience. That would be some freaking soul shit. So, yeah, I mean, I guess it depends on the client, right? If the client has the ability or the desire or the want to go into creating something that is more, like for example, there's this BMW head office in, I'm sure what it is exactly. Exactly. That one won a ton of awards. There's some super magic happening there. So I think there's opportunity. You know, you can apply a skill set across disciplines. The question is, would I want to do it? Maybe not now. Maybe if I've done, I don't know, 30 of these things, then I'd be like, cool, I think I've done enough of them. Do something else. But I think, you know, the cool thing is that you're actually becoming more sensitized to designing from humanity. So you can transfer that skill set to other things. So for example, I'm very like food obsessed, so my analogy is always food related. But like imagine designing the perfect first date. Like what does that look like? What feelings are you trying to create? And sure, maybe it's a restaurant experience, but it could be the whole thing from pickup to the end, wherever the end is. And how do you design each of these touch points on that experience? I think if you design a spa, you can design that. If you design that, you can design a spa. Those things all cross-pollinate. They're not, you know, isolated in these silos of perfection. They kind of blend and merge. Yeah. Your second question was around drawing. I don't present the shit drawings, the anxiety drawings, because it's not there. You can feel it, you see it. It's like blatant. You put them next to each other, you're like, something's off. I don't know what it is, but it's something weird there. And it's this contrast. And you then, I don't know, I drew this line and it's amazing. Like the amount of times when my team and I were designing and they, like Jess, for instance, she'd be like, dude, yeah, design the fucking perfect line. Just look at this line. And it is an insane line. And you're like, this is a ridiculous line. You don't know why it's amazing, but it is something there. And you can extrapolate that to an entire design. You know, it's not just a line. It's so all of a sudden you're gelling, you're in the right moment, you're in the right state. There's this thing, Lewis Hamilton had a race in Singapore in 2018, and he said he did the perfect lap. He had a shit car, Ferrari was way better than he was, and he was a second ahead on qualifying, or half a second ahead on qualifying, which is insane. And he says, I was dancing. That's what you want. It's like this striving for this dance, this ephemeral dance in your design.
How do you get the for instance, working with a team, that feeling that you have with your sketches and your development, how do you get into maybe, say, a larger scheme? Because especially with a big planning exercise, you can lose some of the touch in terms of especially going for a deadline.
Yeah.
Where maybe you kind of ignored or you neglected a particular section of the program.
Yeah.
Then you do present that master plan. And
Yeah.
you find that it was really nice at the front side, and then even sometimes your service spaces are actually feel too service-y. How do you get your team? And you actually depend on your team to fill in some.
Of course.
So if you're designing everything in little bubbles and that you really enjoyed sketching out and solving those bubbles, sometimes you need your team's help to really put it together. And you find that sometimes that maybe your team can actually get a feel for.
So this is why it's very important. Sorry, because I know where you're going with that. So the point is, it's not just my journey. And this is why training at Black Sable was so freaking important. We all do this drawing thing together. When you start working at Black Sable, I don't go like, okay, you think this line is the right place? What do you feel? What is that gut response? Is this feeling good? And so by training the team to think or feel the same way, they get better at this thing, right? To the point now where, for example, we did a project we were working on a project in Indonesia somewhere, and every one of the team members did a different design, a different element. So, there was a family villa, someone designed that. There was a family suite, someone designed that. There was a spa, someone did that. There was a gym, someone did that. Everyone did different things, and yet there's still a cohesion. There's still a feeling, because we're all designing from the space of kind of intuitive, emotional kind of connection. And yes, there's still crit sessions. Like, listen, man, this thing isn't feeling right. There's something weird going on here. But it's not like, the wind's from the west and, the sun's from the south. And, like, it's none of that shit. It's just like, what is that feeling that you're trying to create? Does it feel good? Yeah. Cool. Anything else?
Got 2 comments here from the paper.
How do you see that breaking up?
Maybe answer them directly.
Should I just type them out?
No, you can speak slides too.
Okay. Okay. So, as a designer, what's the best way to combat procrastination when it comes to designing to adequately reach deadlines? So, this is maybe a bit of a controversial opinion. Procrastination is your friend. Procrastination is actually your superpower, because what you're doing is you're sitting in the discomfort of not knowing. And the more you procrastinate, the longer you can sit in that discomfort, and it's actually a superpower. If you think about, so if you guys follow us on Instagram, I got a reel on this, but so basically, there's this example where Einstein was asked, solve this problem. He's like, you got an hour, solve the problem. How do you do it? He said, I'll spend 55 minutes thinking about the problem and 5 minutes solving it. It's the same as what we do. When I say thinking, I'm not just saying thinking, because we think by doing. So making, whatever, even going for showers, drives, whatever it is that you need to do to enter that weird alpha state that we need to get into, wash dishes, clean a room, whatever it is, do that. That's not procrastinating. That's you getting ready to start solving this problem. So start seeing this process. Yeah? No, okay, let me finish this and then sorry, okay. So see this thing as like, so for example, for me, when I'm designing, let's say I need to design this house, whatever it is, lodge. I need to clean my room first, or my space. I need to probably have a shower. I need to go for a walk. I need to go to the gym. I need to do all these things. All these things are procrastination. No. I'm just priming the whole time, priming myself to get ready to start solving. Okay, so just change your mindset on that. Procrastination is not a bad thing. It's a superpower. Don't shame yourself for it, okay? One more question again, and I'll get back to you. I was like, oh my gosh. Okay, I really appreciate the art of hand drawing, but do you feel it's diminishing as architectures to digital tools? And what's your opinion on how we can maintain this art? So you maintain the art by maintaining it. Don't just not do it. Do it. I know that's super simplistic, but actually just show up, do it, and it'll be part of your process. And I mean, the digital tools question is a big question because it's essentially linking to AI. I don't know. I find AI is like a poor man's version of humanity, right? it can't encapsulate everything that you are. It can't encapsulate this idea of soul. It can get very freaking close. And if you're not really tapped into who you are as a person, it's going to be like, oh yeah, that's human. Like people write AI, like send me AI stuff. Like, oh, I wrote this. Like, no, you didn't. This is not human. You know, there's something that's missing there. It's cold. It's calculated. It's too perfect. You know, humanity is messy. We're not perfect creatures. So why would we embrace something that assimilates perfection? You know, if you looked at, have you had a conversation with a intense, hardcore tech bro and been like, yeah, that was a really good conversation? No, there's a coldness there. And it's the way they manufacture use the AI. It's the same process. Don't be dismissive of people, they're great, you know, but there's something there that gets missing. I think I answered those two questions. Might be more. Yeah. Did I answer your question? Oh, what was your question about? AI. Okay. Cool. Yes.
So in terms of communicating your design to the client.
Yeah.
I mean, the headspace of the clients is obviously drastically different from yours.
Oh.
And you can't send them to go to yoga. Or you actually sit down and, you know, how many tips and tricks that you do to kind of.
I've never thought of that. That's a really good question. Maybe we should do like the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 to start. That's a really good idea. Yeah, that's it. Maybe we should probably do that.
There's something about recognizing that space that you've already been from the client's perspective. So you would see it and you would recognize it, and even if you're not in that space, kind of, you know, the client might intuitively react to that.
Yeah, so there's
whatever's in there.
Yeah, so it's essentially the process is talking about links to mirror neurons.
Yeah.
So, for example, if you imagine two people coming together, one super anxious, one is super calm and relaxed, what will happen is that there'll be, through a process of these mirror neurons, you'll merge your emotional state and you'll even them out. So the anxious guy will become more calm, the calm guy will become more anxious, and hit a happy medium. So if you're presenting it in a calm state, then that'll come forth in the way they're reading your information. But it's also this thing about priming your client. So for example, I hate presenting a client work blindly, in the sense that a lot of people do this where they kind of go the Kolosh thing. You know, take it or leave it. Like that is so setting you up for failure, because the likelihood of that working is so freaking low. And you spent like, I don't know, weeks kind of getting this presentation pack together. I think it's much better to kind of try and send them something as quickly as you possibly can. So like the least amount of work with the least amount of information, send that to them and get feedback. We also use a software called Loom. I don't know if you guys know it. Basically, you can record, it's like you create like a little YouTube, you record yourself presenting the work. So we do that as well, because then if they have any questions, you have kind of spoken them through it. And so the meeting is more feedback session than a presentation session. So it's a conversation, not a presentation. And then you kind of will get a better response, because they're also not like, they also sense your desperation around take it or leave it. Like if imagine you're like on a Tinder date and you're like, oh, you know, we have to like hook up now, whatever, you know, like you put that pressure in there, it's going to be a fuck up. But if you just go, I'm here, I'm open-minded, maybe we'll connect, maybe we won't. If it works, it doesn't. If it doesn't, it doesn't matter. Like it's one of many or whatever. Like there are no stakes. If you can remove the stakes from any engagement, you're relaxed. That's like with the presentation today here. There's no stakes for me being here. I'm just here and I'm presenting, sharing my ideas with you. So I'm not nervous or uncomfortable. And you're sensing that in the way I'm presenting, right? You're like, oh, he's super chill, talking in front of people. Most people are like super anxious. You know, like I'm very relaxed. And so you're picking up on that. So I think that kind of answers. Go to the gym before you see a client, maybe. That's probably the yeah. Yes. Yeah. So AI definitely has its role. I'm really bad at like PA work. So I can definitely see a future where AI will tell me, hey, listen, you've got a booking at 2 to go cut your hair. No, seriously, I have a really big problem going to I keep forgetting my hair cutting appointments. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think it's kind of hard to preempt. I think we fail to understand exponential growth. So where it ends up, who knows? But what I do kind of intuitively, like we had a client who wanted to build a 3D printed lodge in Tanzania, and it's like you have access to really good quality craftspeople in Tanzania. Why would you use a 3D printer imported from Switzerland, where labor is super expensive, to a country where labor is really affordable? And you have skills, you have talent, you have ability, you can work together as a team. Why would you hire a 3D printer? It makes no sense. You know, so I also think in the context that we're in, yes, AI is absolutely going to play a role, but are we going to build using those technologies? I don't think so. Also, like, I don't know, like, you look at those 3D images, 3D pictures, and you're like, oh, it's really pretty. Like, it's like calculated to be the most appealing image you can see. But then you go, okay, cool. So when you date someone, do you date the most beautiful person in the room? Or do you date the most interesting and most characterful, most soulful, most entertaining, most characteristic, most rich individual? Or just the most beautiful? You know what I mean? Like,
Young answers. Sorry, young answers. Sorry, I'm gonna have to jump there, otherwise we would completely run out of time. But I'm sure they'll continue engaging.
please, I'll send Ruben the Discord link. Please reach out on Discord. I'm there. My whole team is there. We're all available. Talk to us. It'd be great to connect with you. And that's how we build community, right?
If you wouldn't mind sending it to me, like, while the session is still on, I can post it.
I'll send it to you right now.
That's great. So I'll post it in the chat. Post it in the chat. Fantastic. This was, I think, a spectacular engagement. Thank you so
very
much.
It's a pleasure.
Appreciate it.
Super cool to be here.
Right, I just want to make sure that our next presenter is in the session. For some reason, I see three of myself logged into the session. Matagula. Just let me see if he please. Sorry, I'm just going to repeat it. Matagula in the session.
Dear colleagues,
There you go. Good morning.
good morning, colleagues.
Mr. Matagula, I'm not sure. Sorry, everyone. Can we just, for a second, just download for a bit? Mr. Matagula, I'm not sure if you would like to share your webcam. And then we can set you up. But present your rights. We wouldn't mind just uploading your presentation.
Dear colleagues, this is Spanina Matebula from SACAP.
Yes. Wait 1 second. We can hear you. Can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you. Colleagues, greetings to all. As you would know, our registrar was meant to be with you to do the presentation. Unfortunately, he has had an emergency and he had to attend something else which he could not delegate. So I am here on his stead. I am going to do the presentation, and as soon as I'm done, I'm going to request to be excused because I myself have another engagement to undertake in another forum.
Absolutely. No, that's perfectly fine. Are you able to show your presentation?
Yes.
You can also use the screen share function.
Okay, let me try to share it. Okay, thanks. Oh, it looks like the file is too big. It is said to have exceeded the.
No, it's all good. So at the bottom of your screen, we see the microphone button.
Okay, it's buffering. It looks like it wants to share.
Perfect. Yeah. I think the screen share will be good. Perfect. All right. I'm going to hand over to you, everyone. Please welcome Seike. We're quite excited to have you present to us. And same as always, please post your questions for the online guys. Please post it in the chat, and we'll give a short opportunity for questions depending on the time available. Thank you so much.
Thank you, colleague, and greetings once more. My name is Sfanele Matsebula. I am from SACAP. I am going to do this presentation on behalf of Advocate Dodo Fiduli, who was meant to be present today, but he is not here. The presentation is about the regulations and standards in the architectural profession. We have got a table of contents there. We will be discussing the role of regulation in architecture. We'll look at the Architectural Professions Act. We'll also look at the importance of building standards on design solutions. We will also look at design through regulation. The role of regulation in architecture. The South African Council for the Architectural Profession, SACAP, is mandated to regulate the profession in South Africa, and our enabling act is the Architectural Profession Act 44 of 2000. According to this act, we have got at least 4 categories of professionals. We have got a professional architect category. We have got a professional senior architectural technologist category. We have a professional architectural technologist category and a professional architectural draftsperson. So on all of these 4 categories, we also have got candidates for each category. SACAP fulfills its mandate by setting and enforcing standards for 1, registration, 2, education and training, 3, professional competence, 4, conduct, 5, performance, 6, ethics. SACAP maintains a register of candidates and professionals who meet these standards. SACAP has introduced a dedicated register for architecture students, enabling them to gain early exposure to the profession by studying and to begin building foundational knowledge base. SACAP does accredit educational programs offered by educational institutions that individuals must complete to register. An education institution such as your institution that offers architecture qualifications must be duly accredited by SACAP to ensure that its graduates are eligible to register with SACAP. Graduates from such programs, sorry, colleagues, I need to close this thing here. Apologies, my colleagues. There's something that is Okay, let me proceed, colleagues. Graduates from such programs are then eligible to apply for registration with SACAP in the relevant category. For example, a candidate architect, candidate senior architectural technologist. Without a SACAP recognized program, graduates would not meet the educational requirements for professional registration, which could prevent them from entering the architectural profession legally. Once a person has obtained a qualification in architecture from an accredited educational institution, such as our institution here, they then become eligible to register as a candidate in the relevant category of registration. Registration as a candidate allows a person to perform architectural work only under the direction, control, and supervision of a registered professional. You will notice, colleagues, that this requirement is also embedded in the Code of Conduct itself, where SACAP seeks to ensure that candidates perform work under supervision at all times. If there is a situation where a candidate performs without supervision, that candidate might be charged for improper conduct, and the mentor or rather the supervisor might also be charged for dereliction of duty. And the outcome of charges is that both these registered persons will face prosecution before the tribunal and be sanctioned accordingly. So during the candidature period, candidates are required to submit monthly training records. By the end of the candidature period, the candidates must have accumulated a minimum of 400 training credits. Upon attaining the required 400 credits, candidates become eligible to apply for and sit the professional practice exams. Passing these exams qualifies them then to be graduated to the professional category of registration. Achieving a professional registration status confirms that an individual has met all SACAP standards and is competent to perform architectural work independently while upholding public safety, ethical practice, and professional accountability. SACAP takes appropriate action when registered persons and professionals fail to uphold the required standards. The importance of building standards on design solutions. Here we look at the NBR and the SANS 10400. Section 14(1) of the Architectural Profession Act enjoins SACAP to create an awareness amongst registered persons of the importance to protect the environment against unsound architectural practices. Sound architectural practices require registered professionals to design structures that comply with building regulations. I might add, colleagues, that in instances where there is evidence that structures do not comply with building regulations as a result of unsound architectural practices, SACAP does prosecute registered persons who are in the wrong, and they are sanctioned accordingly. So to ensure that structures that are designed by registered professionals comply with building regulations, all building planning submissions must be submitted to the local municipality for approval. It is important, colleagues, to also note that in instances where our registered professionals allow for construction of structures without the approval of municipalities, that amounts to improper conduct, and it is prosecutable and sanctioned in terms of our legislation and the Code of Conduct. Over the years, local municipalities have raised concerns about designs that do not comply with building regulations. In line with SACAP's mandate to safeguard the public interest and uphold professional standards, it is imperative that at this stage of learning and during the preparation of CRIT, compliance with national building regulations be explicitly incorporated and assessed. Lecturers are required to ensure that students demonstrate a clear understanding and knowledge of national building regulations in all design submissions. This practice not only addresses municipal concerns, but also prepares students for professional registration and responsible practice. Designing through regulation. Designing using regulatory and building standards, non-innovative yet compliant solutions, balancing creativity and building standards requirements. The buildings and the infrastructure designed by registered professionals have a profound and lasting impact on the environment and the quality of life of our citizens. In line with SACAP's statutory mandate to protect the public and uphold professional standards, architectural education must prepare graduates to design responsibly and sustainably. The growing challenges of climate change, including floods, rising temperatures, extreme weather events, and sea level rise, require that educational institutions offering architecture programs equip students with the skills to respond proactively and innovatively through design. Architecture students must therefore be trained to develop design solutions that mitigate the impacts of climate change and contribute to environmental resilience and sustainability. This training must include sustainable design practices, such as designing energy-efficient buildings, utilizing renewable and environmentally responsible materials, and promoting construction methods that reduce negative impacts on the environment. Accordingly, educational institutions are expected to graduate professionals who can design structures that address community needs, advance the public good, and withstand the challenges of a changing climate, thereby fulfilling SACAP's commitment to protecting the health and safety and welfare of society. In conclusion, colleagues, architecture is directly linked to the constitutional right to all South Africans to adequate housing. To legally practice architecture in South Africa, one must be registered with the South African Council for the Architectural Profession. In line with SACAP's mandate to protect the public and uphold professional standards, architectural education and practice must contribute to realizing the right to adequate housing. Architecture students have a critical role in ensuring that housing designs are inclusive, responsive to the needs of all communities, and resilient to climate change. Designs must also comply with national building regulations to safeguard the health, safety, and well-being of all occupants. By doing so, they uphold SACAP's commitment to protecting the public interest and promoting socially responsible and sustainable professional practice. Dear colleagues, this is the end of the presentation. I may take questions if there are any.
Any questions from anyone online, anyone in the session? No questions?
So, when do you start registering?
And you have a qualification. Yeah. So let's send that over to SACAP. So the question here is from what point do you start registering the SACAP?
Thank you, colleagues. SACAP allows for the registration of students as well. In other instances, you find that you have people who do not even have the formal education in architecture, but over the years they might have developed the skill in architecture. Those people are allowed to come forward to SACAP and register as apprentices. But if one has got the formal education, that is, they have graduated from tertiary, they then register to become candidates in the various category of registrations. Thank you, colleagues.
Thank you. And then I see we've got a question online. Can I apply to SACAP even though I didn't do my architecture courses in South Africa?
Yes, SACAP does allow for foreign qualification, qualified persons to apply for registration, but then SACAP will vet the qualifications and see if they meet the requirements in the South African standards.
Great. Anyone with all right, Angela is saying as part-time architecture students can we still register? Yeah, we're going to let SACAP answer that. All right, perhaps I can answer that. So yes, part-time students can also register when that study method has been accredited by SACAP. And Samuel, you've been with AIE for 3 years. Depending on which qualifications, so the highest certificate, for instance, is accredited with SACAP. Not the CETA qualifications, the old CETA qualifications, so the CHE ones. But yeah, I think the best approach today is yes, yeah. Then Samuel, yes, you can. Any other questions for SACAP specifically? Yeah, we've got one as well. Let's SACAP answer. So, Mr. Matabula, the question here is: would interior designers also need to register with SACAP?
Interior designers, I would need to go and have a look, but as long as the work that you do is a part of architecture, the answer then is yes. But if it's specific to interior designers, one would have to really undertake some research and provide a proper, well-informed response. But I'm going to request you to just drop us an email at info@sacapsa.com with this question specifically, so that we can directly respond to you after getting all the necessary information.
They need to check your qualification or what did you study.
Yes.
So it's case by case. So email them and then they'll point you in the right direction.
Yeah, just a question here for Megan. So Megan, depending on study method, so Midrand campus has completed the accreditation process. Our Cape Town campus is completing the accreditation process, and so is our part-time. So with time, depending on your study method. Amisa is posting a question here for you guys at SACAP. Does SACAP provide mentors to candidates if you have completed the highest certificate in architecture?
Yes, SACAP does arrange for candidates to have mentors. Where candidates require such mentors, mentors are identified, and then there will be agreements that are entered into between the parties.
Right. And then Michael Bakley is asking, can an apprentice qualify over time to become a professional architect? And if prior to studying, if an individual has worked and built up a portfolio, can they apply for an apprentice or apprenticeship while still studying?
Yes, to answer the question, the last one, or rather the last part, yes, they can apply while still studying, provided that they provide the necessary portfolio of evidence to demonstrate their competence to do the work. And indeed, an apprentice can qualify over time to become a professional. But the starting point for an apprentice is to become a professional architectural draft person. That is where it begins. But then over time, with the accumulation of experience and even undertaking further studies, yes, they can then graduate from the lower categories of registration up until they become a professional architect.
Great. Any other questions from anyone? No? Well, happy. Great. Thank you so much for joining us, Mr. Matbula. We appreciate your participation in the event.
Thank you so much, colleagues, for the invitation. And apologies once more, the registrar couldn't make it, and then we had to make quick plans to ensure that there is a representative from SACAP to participate in this presentation. Thank you once more, and have a good day going forward.
Thank you. All right. I just want to check if Paul is in the session. Our next presenter. Great, Paul is here. Paul, are you able to join with the microphone? Just to do that, so if you click on the little headphones icon at the bottom, you will be prompted to change the microphone.
Yeah. Right. I need to understand if their feedback. Right. Can you just confirm that you can hear me?
We can hear you. We're hearing a little bit of feedback. I think also on your phone.
That better?
Yes, that is better. Yes, yeah. That's definitely better.
Yes, I know all of these.
Can you hear me?
Yes. Yes. I think.
Okay, great. Sorry about all of that. It appears that I had a few glitches on my laptop, difficult to settle. Right, so this is an unusual medium for me, not having any feedback, which everyone knows me. I feed off that, but anyway, let's carry on. So what I would like to get across in this presentation is the need for collaboration within a team when designing, and I'm going to engage specifically with the architecture and structure of any project. Maybe I need to introduce myself, Ruben. Not sure if you've introduced me. It's Paul May.
Not yet. Not yet.
I'm a practicing structural consulting engineer in Johannesburg. We work across South Africa and Africa, right up to Algeria, Nigeria, and the likes. So quite a vast experience in Africa itself. I've been consulting for about 30 years now. So a few tales to tell, which I think I possibly shared with Ruben, and hence him wanting me to share with you guys. Yeah, over the years, I feel there is definitely value in a close collaboration, and the architect obviously being your lead consultant in the design space in buildings per se, would, in my mind, best collaborate with structure, because structure does often define what may or may not be done, obviously from a structural point of view, and it does often feed into the success of the ultimate creation, building in this particular case. In my mind, your best opportunity once practicing, or best way to have this opportunity, because teams aren't always formed prior to your design, initiating your design to the client's brief. But if you have any relationships with any structural engineers, to nurture those so that you can engage with them offline, even if they aren't party to the project you're working on, to give you some insight and direction should you have some demands that are particularly structurally oriented. Let's just get into more meat. So
A particular parameter of today's industry, building industry anyway, is the budget constraints, especially with our economy as it is, and clients with shallow pockets, which is more common than not. Most unfortunately, it does have constraints on the creativity that architects are called upon to deliver a project or a building of consequence. And if you're working with structural partners or a structural engineer, you can look at optimizing firstly your structure, and that might be minimizing the structure, it might be making the structure lighter in both weight, but more importantly aesthetic, and obviously composite optimized structures are often improved upon utilizing composite structural systems, and these are all really more known by the better experienced engineer, but most engineers would be able to help. Further decisions are material choices, which can often feed into the success or otherwise. Typical materials in this particular case are steel, although steel is quite a costly material at this stage. The price of steel has gone up because of the demand on power, as well as the lack of sustainability of steel. Timber is becoming more and more into the fore because of, again, the sustainability of timber and its natural form not being demanding on carbon footprints and the like. Concrete is ever present and structurally very, very competent and easy to manufacture, be it on site or be it ready-mix suppliers. But it too has sustainability challenges with the high carbon footprint of your cement manufacture. It requires very, very high power demand. And then obviously masonry, being made of earth clays, which are obviously do have a limit, but are not carbon heavy. Further design considerations are obviously your sustainability. It's sustainability within the building and its performance, and obviously heat and cold being a primary. Our climates are quite warm, so not overly a challenge as much as in Europe or Asia, where they do have very cold climes. And then light, obviously the more light one can have into a building without using power, the better sustainability wise. And least impact, referring to least impact on the site that you're building on, or least impact on the geology, on the climatic impact, which is obviously carbon, goes right back to the manufacture of your initial materials, which is your carbon footprint impact. And then optimize projects, building projects are often better achieved if one can simplify the construction thereof. So simply put, if it's easier to build, you will get a better product at the end of the day. If the more complex it is, the more risk there is of getting that desired finish and or accuracy. Construction can also be simplified by fewer activities. So rather than using multiple steps in a method statement to create something, the more you can reduce that, the faster it's going to be built, and the less risk for compromised end product. Ease of build and finishes, I think, speaks to what I've just spoken to. Good extraordinary buildings and even economic buildings, which have got a very simplistic function, all demand, all are optimized with a more agile structural design. And if you're interacting with, you have a relationship or interacting with a structural engineer at the time of design development, you can tap his mind, tap his experience to optimize your initial form of the structure. Typically, what comes into play often is longer spans, so fewer columns, which obviously impact on your layout, your design. Fewer supports, which speaks to the longer spans, and typical building structures which demand this are your stadia. If you look at the stadia of today, they're very, very impressive structures, often developed with space frame and massive tension cables and the like. Just think of the few stadia that we built in 2010, all very impressive structures. Required structural involvement right at the onset to ensure that the initial vision could be achieved. Longer cantilevers, those are becoming more and more prominent, often reduced plot space or optimized viewing decks, typical consideration, and optimized spaces that would be to use it for different functions and often aesthetic. This graphic on the right shows a type of cantilever with the building with the levels as you go higher, projecting further and further. Then they've secured it with an aesthetic structural concrete form. Further requirements of agile structural design are versatile spaces like multi-use buildings. We're busy with just completed one and busy with the second school multi-use hall, which is in essence a structural steel building, but it allows for multiple sports types being able to be played, be it the indoor football, basketball, netball, and the rest, as well as a large space for examinations, as well as a large space for school gatherings, be they exhibitions themselves or year-end kind of exam presentations and the like. And exhibition halls obviously is another one which is self-explanatory. Agile structural design also required where you have site challenges. In South Africa, we have fairly complex geologies, be it expanding clays, be it collapsing soils. And then I'm sure everyone who's listening in here would be familiar with the sinkholes that we have in the Gauteng area. Obviously problematic as a threat to life, as well as the structures that are built above them. Further to that, often nowadays the demand of space pushes us into floodplains or floodplains alongside rivers and the like. That also requires quite an intensive, more on the civil side there, but the structure itself could be challenged with that problem. Environmental and traffic accommodation, quite commonplace. Your kind of tubes in London where you're going underground. Flyovers are also a requirement, but some buildings have to be optimized to retain traffic. And I guess when one talks traffic, one has to consider all modes of transport, be it pedestrian or bicycle, motorbike, and the like. And then environmental challenges. We're doing quite a few lodges at the moment, and the demands on the lodges, especially in the Botswana Delta, are that you remove the building at the end of its use life and you don't leave any trace of the building. So in that particular case, we're using steel pylons which we can remove after the fact, and everything else is built above ground. No concrete allowed to be poured in ground, and everything has to be dismantled thereafter. So those are just a little bit of insight into some of the challenges that one may have in developing a building through the client's brief. And your structural engineer, be it a colleague within your company, or be it a partnership company, or just someone that you've got a personal relationship with, if the team hasn't been gathered, can give you a lot of insight and really help with optimization on all those different facets. What I've gathered is I've collected a few buildings, a lot of them well known to us, some of them not so, which exhibit this kind of a collaboration. And I'll talk to each and every one of them. I'm not sure if all the audience are from Gauteng, but possibly driven past Waterfall in time. And on the left, you'll be familiar with the PwC office building that was built with a twist. I know there's a similar building. There are similar buildings around the world with a much more extreme rotation in height. Obviously, deeper pockets can create more elaborate structures. So it's just an interesting thing that might not be apparent to the average person who sights this building, is that if you look at this edge that's twisting in front of us, that is reliant on gravity to hold its form, but you'll look at, as the floors are going up, there's a downward force that wants to twist the building, and that in itself is quite problematic to create this twist. But the way the engineers have combated it, if you look at the right-hand image, that is a circular, it's a cylindrical concrete structure, and they've probably got their lifts and stairways in the middle of that. But in essence, what you've got there is a very stiff tube, cantilever tube. And with the building and its form and shape, gravity forcing it to want to twist, this cylindrical concrete structure is resisting the twist. So it's just giving you optimal rotational stability against the twist of the building and its desire to twist with load. So yeah, that in itself is something that people wouldn't pick up, but that's what allows it to be twisted, is that central concrete cylinder. This here, common, I mean, we've all seen it in photographs if we haven't been to Sydney. I haven't. This is the shell building. So in being a shell, your kind of basic structural design would not be able to resolve this. This is only possible by very, very high order mathematics, but common or within everyone's reach nowadays with the kind of finite element analysis packages which are available. But the form here is essentially an arch, albeit distorted. So every part of that, almost every part of that structure is in compression, and it's using the arch form to retain that compression. And then it looks like it should, those kind of shell type structures look like they should tilt forward, but obviously it's like a cantilever, it's got a bit of a backspan. So something as elaborate as this really was very demanding on the structural engineer and the design thereof. This here is an exhibition hall in France. That cantilever is something, I mean, I'm guessing now, just looking at the form, I never looked it up. That must be about 30-meter cantilever. This is, the French love their elaborate buildings. And this will obviously want to topple over. If it weren't attached to the ground at the back, it would topple over. But what you can appreciate is the fulcrum, or the tipping, the point over which it'll tip would be the back end of this wall here, would be at that point there. Now, if it were not joined to the ground here, it would tip without any question at all. But in being joined to the ground, what you get back here is an enormous upward force. So this all the gravity here is trying to pull this down, so it's putting an exceptional upward tension on this point here. So they would, without a doubt, and I haven't looked up the structural component of this, but I have no doubt in my mind with my experience that they've got very long piles in the ground, probably at very close centers along that back wall there, which are acting in tension, and it's literally holding this building down so that it doesn't tip over. And it's designed with a massive safety factor, so there's never any concern. But yeah, again, quite elaborate structural resolution. And if you look carefully, you can actually see diagonal steel struts there, which are your like trusses. They're giving, that's the load path primarily in tension. Could be concrete as well, actually, to be honest. But achieved through a load path coming in those diagonals back to this tension at the back and compression in the front. Quite an interesting structure, that. This here, I mean, it really, I don't know that everyone would want to walk below all these projections comfortably, but assuredly this would have been well modeled, and all these cantilevers will have a good backspan, and it's purely a structural balancing act. And all the components, this looks like it could actually be concrete, so all the walls are possibly countering the stresses that are initiated by the substantial cantilevers. Quite an interesting one. That's Montreal, Canada. Also a beautiful project at the end of the day, and engenders a bit of creative thought. Anyone who doesn't look at this and think twice has got to have had a frontal lobotomy, because it really does smack of a very elaborate, cheeky design. This one I think most people have seen. It's in Singapore, 3 towers with a massive, what looks like a ship on the top. See the picture's been cut off, but in the front here, it's like the front of a ship. And the real challenge here, aside from these being normal buildings and this just being spanning between the buildings and then having a substantial cantilever in the front, the large challenge here is that these buildings would move independently of each other just through wind loading, thermal changes, heat and cold, drying shrinkage of concrete, and all sorts of other movements which are endured by all buildings. And what they've done here, I believe they've anchored this whole ship to the central tower, and then on this tower and this tower, they've got what we call bearings. Now, those bearings are more than likely roller bearings, which have effectively got a steel plate, and the tower would have a flat kind of a roller wheel in essence. And the change in dimension, which might only be centimeters, enables these buildings to move independently of each other, and this tower, this ship type shape on top, still to be supported, albeit this building and this and the ship above it, or the concrete shape above it, are moving in relation to each other. So again, it's a complex structural resolution to enable them to achieve what is, one has to agree, quite a thought-provoking structure in Singapore. This is the last slide. fairly straightforward in aesthetic, beautiful cross, obviously on the, this is in Japan, which last time I checked was north of the equator, so this would be facing south, and in winter, in their winter, you would get the sun coming across this open cross. Now, these squares up here are essentially just hanging from this roof. So I'd imagine they've got a fairly substantial upstand beam above this slab. This wall here is obviously holding up this slab on the end, and these squares here are literally just hanging from that slab. These here are standing up self-supported, that's fine, it's no problem, but to create this, which is simplistic in its form, involves a little bit of structural design, but is not unachievable. Yeah, so just to, I hope that's pricked a bit of imagination in you guys and gives you an insight as to what can be achieved with collaboration between members of a design team. I don't know that there are any questions or any ideas that you want to throw around. See some of you got no sound.
Sound is fine. Sorry, Paul, can you hear us?
Some have got sound. Ruben?
Let's check.
I don't know if anyone's talking to me, but I can read.
I think you answer. No, maybe just speak a little bit.
So let's just double check. Paul, can you hear us?
Our phone volume's on maximum.
Okay, 2 seconds. Okay, we'll do another test. Paul, can you hear us now? Doing another test. Paul, can you hear us? This is always the joy of virtual meetings, virtual presentations, the sort of error checking, the audio issues. 2 seconds, and quickly give him a call. All right, seems guys, seems the audio is up and running. So let's just double check and confirm. Paul, can you hear us now? I'm sure you can. We can't hear you, so I think maybe just join back with mic on your cell phone. check if you're joined with Mike. Just on your. There we go. Try and join with Mike now on your phone.
How's that, Ruben?
That's perfect. Perfect. All right, and you can hear us clearly.
I can hear you well.
Wonderful. All right, we've got a question. You had a question?
Yes. Has there been a project that you simply declined participating because of the structural complexities or challenges that it came with?
Sorry, could you just say that again?
He's just walking closer.
Sorry. Has there been a project that you've declined to participate in or simply refused because of the structural challenges or complexities that it came with?
Never. So I'm very blessed to have one or two guys who are, well, one particular guy who's a leader, who's a real leader in structural design, and his knowledge and seismic and all the rest, quite extraordinary. So we have never not taken up a challenge.
Great. What the question from Daniel? Yeah. So Paul, there's a question from Daniel Mahakwe in the chat. If you wouldn't mind, responding to that.
Okay. It seems to me that the complex projects require more civil engineers than architects due to the steel reinforcing elements. Is that so? With these buildings and the architect is always the lead, because the aesthetic and the function and plan layouts and use of space is your speciality. Certainly, engineers need to be intrinsically involved in the more complex buildings, and those would obviously involve the engineer and the architect right from the onset. But I wouldn't say there are more engineers needed. The architecture still needs to be adapted to the engineering if it's that elaborate that the engineering kind of leads the form. But it then makes the architecture more complex, because we do throw a few curved balls from the structural members, accommodation thereof, and then the architecture gets a little more complex. So I wouldn't say there's more engineering needed, but I do understand your question in the sense that the engineering is almost leading the building design. But I guess when one wants to achieve something elaborate that kind of boggles the layman's mind, the engineering has to be on point in order to achieve something that is structurally stable and obviously safe.
Right. And then there's a question from Sky. What was your most structurally complex design, if you can recall?
Yeah. So 3 come to mind. One was a 26-story building in Botswana, Gaborone, which you might or might not know is actually a seismic area, albeit a very low category. So a 26-story building for, South Africa is seismically very stable. So we don't even, it's not an elaborate part of civil engineers studies. So we're quite, our knowledge is quite basic in that sense. So in Gaborone, Botswana, we had this 26-story building, and obviously it has to achieve the seismic resolutions and code standards as well as everything else. So that was quite demanding, and We had reviews done by other engineers just to make sure that we hadn't omitted any considerations, but all was good. Another very complex one was a swimming pool Olympic standard stadium in Algeria, where we had 12 stories of unengineered fill above a very, very bad clay deposit. So we had to then build a swimming pool, Olympic size, 50 meter, above what was kind of 16 meters of not very good ground. So we had to actually pile with massive piling rigs right through all of this and still bed it in the rock below. And then you got your lateral stability of that building sitting on what is essentially porridge in the highest seismic zone you can find in the world, the same as that San Andreas fault. So there were a few challenges without kind of finite element modeling and the like. It would be very difficult to achieve, but we achieved it. And again, because of its complexity, we chose to get a reviewing engineer to just go over everything we had modeled and designed, just so that in the spur of the moment, one hasn't kind of omitted to look at every potential loading case to ensure stability. And the other one was, the third one was a government building down in Freiburg. Now, you know, not a large town, and probably you drive past the building, you would never know the complexities, but they had expanding clays there down to a depth of about 12, 14 meters. So the foundation of the building cost about 15% of the building, and normally that's only about 5%. So we had to sink piles down and bed them into the rock and about 17 meters below. And then around those piles, we had to isolate the piles from the expanding clays for the first 16 meters. So we put steel encased piles. Then we had a larger sleeve around those steel encased piles, and in that gap we had to put bentonite. You might or might not know, it's like a talcum powder type clay which doesn't have any friction whatsoever, and that's to allow the clays to expand and contract over time with moisture and all the rest. And the whole building had to be effectively I think eventually we had it about 600 millimeters above ground. And that was to enable the clays to expand and still not compromise the building above. So if you ever drive past Freiburg again, look for I think they call it the Corona building. There were one or two challenges. We got 2 or 3 pile designing engineers disagreeing with each other. We obviously didn't do the pile design ourselves, it was a little too complex. So we had 2 or 3 of the leading pile designing geotechnical engineers in SA all arguing with each other as to how to design it. So we had to get other people involved. But yeah, that was quite a substantial growth phase for me.
Thanks. Yeah. So I've got a question as well, and then we could jump to the last 2 questions in the chat. In your experience, how valuable is it to have open and continuous dialogue between you as an engineer, the architect, perhaps other specialist engineers or other specialist professionals on the site throughout the construction and throughout the design of the project, whether it be simple or complex?
Did you say how viable?
No, how valuable? How important?
Yeah, look, every building will need a different level of collaboration, right? A straightforward single-story home, not a lot. Multi-story with complex kind of challenges, as I brought up in the slides, you have a great deal more. And if you want to achieve an iconic building of real consequence, much like that twisted building in the PwC building in Waterfall, then the collaboration is a lot more intense. And it's an iterative process in the sense that you might give us the shape of the building and the plan layout, but in our design, we're more than likely going to compromise that a little. And so that you guys then, the architects then say, right, well, yeah, that's a bit of a challenge because that's a multi-use hall. We can't have any structural members going down there. What are your alternatives? And then we bring about alternatives. And on occasion, we might present 2 or 3 options, not knowing what is the highest priority to the architect. So it's an iterative process, and the most important thing, or the few most important things, are: one is a respect for each other and what the other one's trying to achieve. Humility in a sense, like the world all around us, we're very devoid of humility. I think a certain humility, arrogance doesn't help, because then you're putting yourself above others. And I think you're a team. Even the contractors, part of your team, should be part of your team to achieve the best result at the end of the day. So that collaboration must be done with mutual respect and frequent communication. No one must ever close down their channels. You must always be available to support the other members of the team. So yeah, from a value point of view, it's enormous. And there's no doubt that the product at the end of the day, whether it's essentially an architectural achievement or whether it's a structural achievement, it's a team effort, including the contractor. I always maintain the contractor's critical to the team, because ultimately they're going to create what you're trying to achieve. And if you treat them with less, then they're not necessarily going to have the same buy-in. So yeah, very, very valuable. Open channels and the respect for everyone else in the team.
Wonderful, thanks. Then we've got a question from Kate. What would you say, in your experience, is something clients view as simple but is actually complex?
Yes, that's Kate. That's very, very insightful. You do get clients who will not appreciate it and are possibly not really open, or don't have an appreciation for what's involved. And then you'll get others who are respectful of the situation and give the architect the space. Most clients do appreciate what's being done to achieve their brief. There are fewer clients who don't have empathy, or should I say, appreciation for the extent of the design. But I always, and Ruben will know this, we've worked together, I always try and explain to whomever is prepared to listen, or whoever is involved in the situation, try and explain exactly what we're trying to achieve, why we're doing what we're doing, so that they understand. Because if you don't try and explain it to them, they'll never understand. And the more they understand, the more they're going to appreciate the effort. Yeah. John asked, do you do calculations by hand, or do you rely on structural calculating apps? John, very good one. So there were no screen shared or photo shared, but I am in my mid-60s, so been around the block, kind of always learning every day, but have a lot of experience under my belt. So I started off with mainframes in 1980s. In the 80s, I started off with mainframes. So I had a mainframe the size of an average sized bedroom. And that's what I designed my first building, my first bridge we're using. It took me about 6 weeks to get a result. And nowadays, as we all know, you can literally do it with the smallest laptop around and good software. But I still personally, I'm not involved with the intricate designer of any of our projects. I've got engineers working, doing the work, and the younger guys are obviously relying more and more on software. But I will still do hand calcs to get the basic kind of spans, designs, member sizes, and the like before I initiate the structural form into a software and then design it. Whereas your younger engineers today will probably ask ChatGPT, in fact. We've got ChatGPT, interestingly, in every single engineer's cell phone and laptop. We'll ask it the initial question on occasion, but obviously everything gets followed up by intricate analysis on software.
Great. Thank you so much. Anyone with any other questions? Everyone good? Paul, thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining us. It was enlightening. I think it's always fantastic to see everyone else that's also involved in the design process. We often isolate ourselves very, very quickly. And I think this platform was great to hear from everyone. So thank you again for presenting. It was enlightening and fantastic to see. And hopefully we can continue this collaboration going forward. Thanks so much.
Thank you. My apologies for the challenges on the software, but yeah, that's the maybe they'll simplify this software for those of us over 60.
Great. Thanks so much.
Yes, guys. Have a great day.
Enjoy. Bye. All right. Thank you, everyone online. Thank you, everyone on person. That concludes day 2 of the talks. We hope you guys found it enlightening. We hope you guys enjoyed the talks. And we will continue these talks on Thursday. Enjoy your public holiday tomorrow. Always good to have a clean start that are halfway through the week. So Thursday and Friday, we're going to have the rest of our talks, and we'll see you guys then.
Yeah.
Great.
Some of the questions after the beat.
We'll chat about that. Let's start. Let's do the same. Right. Thanks, everyone. Have a wonderful day.